broadcasting on Channel 3 in the Northeast.
From ITN News at 10 with Julia Sommerville.
Tory MP's gay accuser eclipses Major's big day. An IRA rocket attack in the heart of Belfast. Countdown to liftoff for Branson's Global Challenge. And what a difference a year's made to Hollywood's favourite whale. Good evening. The Prime Minister's attempt to seize the political initiative was sidelined again today by the activities or alleged activities of two of his backbench MPs. After the allegation that Jerry Hayes had had a homosexual relationship with a teenage researcher, which Mr. Hayes denies, Hugh Dykes said he was going to talk to Labour and the Liberal Democrats about proposals for constitutional reform, most of which Mr. Major rejects outright. Mr. Hayes' accuser went on the radio today and his publicist threatened more revelations against the Conservatives. Our political editor, Michael Brunson, reports.
This is where the Tories hoped the media's attention would be today as they moved into the next phase of their attack on Labour. And this is where it was, at a London radio station, where the young man who claims to have been Jerry Hayes' lover, Mr. Hayes denies it, told all.
The relationship happened, and I've got it off my chest now. I've spoken about it. It's out in the open. I don't have to hide anymore. I don't have to pretend.
Deeply involved in all this, the publicist Max Clifford, who openly admitted that he is conducting a vendetta against the Tories over the health service. His daughter is an invalid, and who said he hoped there'd be more similar revelations. Of Mr. Hayes himself, still no sign. In his absence, his constituency chairman was still backing him.
Sure that the only sexual relationship he's had over those years is with his wife.
The Prime Minister, visiting the Emmerdale set at Yorkshire Television, continued to insist that since lawyers are now involved, he would say nothing. But there were other problems. Just a day after Mr. Major labelled Labour and the Liberal Democrats getting together over constitutional change as profoundly dangerous, the Tory MP Hugh Dykes confirmed that he was ready to talk to the Lib Dem Lab Committee about things like voting reform and Commons procedure, though not about Scottish devolution.
The main thing is that we have a very old-fashioned political system in this country now, in comparison with other countries with more modern systems. The public, I think, would appreciate us modernising it so that it's more relevant to them, so they feel they're participating more in political decision-making.
The Tory party chairman said it was all of little consequence.
One member of Parliament talking to colleagues about issues that interest him is hardly on a plane with the Prime Minister setting out the Conservative Party's commitment to the unity of the United Kingdom.
But Tony Blair and later Paddy Ashdown said it showed what was wrong with the Tories.
The contrast is between a Labour Party that's actually got something positive to offer the country and a Conservative Party that's just drifting, negative.
I think the Prime Minister's just missed the mood of the nation. I think that the nation wants to see our political system modernised. They know it's gone wrong.
And here at Conservative Central Office tomorrow, the Prime Minister's press conference. He'll be speaking very much as Conservative Party leader, and he will try and seize back the political initiative. He will stress the Tories' economic record, and will say that because Labour is being deliberately vague on its policies over things like controlling public spending and the minimum wage, that could, were Labour elected, put people's jobs and mortgages at risk. Michael Brunson, News at 10, at Central Office.
The IRA launched a rocket attack on a security post outside the Northern Ireland High Court in Belfast city centre today, injuring a policeman. The missile was fired from a hijacked car. There were fears it could provoke loyalist retaliation, and police and troops in Northern Ireland are tonight on full alert. Our Ireland correspondent John Irvine reports from Belfast.
The men of the bomb squad were at work in Belfast tonight, checking a suspect car abandoned on a bridge. Controlled explosions revealed no danger, but this followed a series of hoaxes across the city, and there was disruption. Earlier, IRA terrorists were active. These pictures were taken minutes after the stolen Ford Mondeo had been used in a rocket attack. A missile was fired from the car at a security post outside the High Court. It struck a window and shattered several layers of armoured glass, but the building was not penetrated. The police officer inside had dived to the floor when he saw the rocket launcher being aimed. He sustained slight injuries, shock and eardrum damage. Gerry Adams of Sinn Féin said the attack was a symptom of the problems all sides face.
When all of the main players focus their attention and their wills, we will still be able to bring about a negotiated settlement. In the meantime, we're living once again in dangerous times.
Mr. Adams also called the attack regrettable, and that angered the Secretary of State.
The word regrettable is something that you apply when the ceiling comes down after your water pipes are frozen. That he applies no stronger word to it, I think, speaks volumes.
On the political front, there is no sign of any developments that might influence the men of violence, and that opens up the prospect of more IRA attacks and possible loyalist retaliation in the run-up to the general election. John Irvine, News at 10, Belfast.
The tycoon and adventurer Richard Branson was preparing tonight for what he's called the greatest challenge of his life. His Virgin Challenger balloon is due to lift off from Morocco tomorrow morning and not come down again until it's taken him right round the world. Taking off from Marrakesh, the balloon will rise to 30,000 feet and be carried east on winds reaching speeds of 250 miles an hour. The crew hope to cover the 20,000-mile journey in 21 days or less. Terry Lloyd reports from the launch site.
This evening, the hot air balloon global challenge was given the green light. And a small army of Moroccan soldiers carried out the great balloon, which will head around the world. Richard Branson and balloonist Per Lindstrand had spent the day studying wind charts. At last, after 18 months, the jet stream winds were beginning to align, and a takeoff from Marrakesh was looking good. The burners above the manned capsule roared into life. They will fill the balloon with over 1 million cubic feet of hot air. The intrepid crew, which includes skydiving champion Rory McCarthy, hoped to be pushed along at 250 miles an hour at a height of 30,000 feet inside a tiny box.
If the weather and other conditions are favourable, this is where those magnificent men intend to spend the next 3 weeks together inside their flying machine.
The engineers have prepared that machine to go on for 20,000 miles through winds and storms in the hope it will achieve the first non-stop circumnavigation of the world. As Branson explained to me, it's become his life's ambition and one he cannot let go.
It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I mean, the idea tomorrow morning of stepping into a balloon, being propelled only by the wind and heading off around the world, and potentially, to be the first people to go around the world, for it to be a British team, is something I can't resist.
Tonight, the balloon awaits its massive injection of helium. Tomorrow, it should head towards Algeria, Libya, Egypt and India, reaching the Pacific in a few days' time. Terry Lloyd, News at 10, Morocco.
Here, temperatures rose above freezing for the first time in days in some areas, and water began to pour out of thousands of burst pipes. Water companies and plumbers have been working flat out to mend them. The forecasters say the cold weather isn't over. Paul Davis reports.
The sound that greeted thousands returning from holiday, a temporary thaw taking its toll of frozen water pipes. In this case, burst pipes at St Mary Dock Junior School, Camborne, meant a surprise extension to the holiday for hundreds of children. The Can family returned to their home in Chingford to discover typical devastation, ceilings brought down by a flood that originated in the loft.
We're told about 700 gallons, and it had only been going on for a few hours because our neighbours checked the property each day.
Gary Waring, like plumbers around the country, says the last time he was this busy was back in the 1970s.
We've been inundated with calls, ceilings falling down. It's been absolutely nerve-wracking. Sleep is a bonus these days.
The deep freeze, followed by a quick thaw, is the worst news for water companies, and it's a combination that could be repeated very soon.
The latest forecast predicts after this brief thaw, temperatures will drop this week, only to rise again at the weekend. It will inevitably mean thousands more cases of burst water pipes and inconvenience.
In fact, it's probably going to get worse before it gets better. It looks as if the cold easterly wind that we suffered over the New Year period is going to come back. And in fact, we could be seeing some snow around about Friday or Saturday.
The Met men say all of Britain will soon be shivering, even those parts of Scotland which escaped the worst of last week's weather, but where temperatures are now dropping. For the emergency services, there have been triumphs as well as tragedies. When this mare fell through thin ice, Essex firemen struggled for 3 hours before successfully pulling her to safety. Paul Davis, News at 10.
Woolwich Building Society said today that